to the British royal family is this idea of a royal reconciliation. And we have some of the top aides having these super secret meetings here in London, kidnapped, photographed, and every last detail in the Daily Mail. Tom Bower, what was your reaction when you saw those headlines?
I thought it was confection, manipulation. I thought that it showed, firstly, Harry absolutely desperate. I thought that Meredith Maines, who is a very aggressive PR for the Sussexes, got way beyond herself because she really doesn't understand the British royal family or Britain, but understands how to project her clients. And so I think she got it wrong by leaking it or even letting anyone know about it. Right. That was a great mistake. And I don't think it'll produce what they hope. And I think in the end, I don't think the Sussexes themselves know what they want anymore. But so
we've also seen, haven't we, the story by Victoria Ward in the Telegraph, where they were talking about, you know, and that upset the palace quite a lot about talking about funeral arrangements and things.
And is this about looking like the bigger person? Because he preaches a lot about forgiveness. We heard him talk about open borders. Sometimes he's very kumbaya, and I wonder if he's trying to put his money where his mouth.
London is buzzing again, and the whispers are louder than ever. Tom Bower, the 85-year-old biographer famous for puncturing polished myths, has pushed Meghan back into the center of the storm with a new round of claims. He isn't waving documents or promising courtroom fireworks. He's doing something subtler and far more dangerous for a celebrity brand. He is asking the public to rewind the story, to rewatch familiar scenes, and to ask whether a carefully chosen camera angle helped create the drama. The hook is simple. If a narrative has been stage managed for years, the audience might already know it without realizing it. That idea alone is volatile. It turns every photo, every quote, and every heartfelt interview into a second viewing where intent is questioned first and answers are sorted later. He begins where the internet never lets go, the so-called yacht narrative. Years before tiaras, there were elite parties and private decks, the kind of spaces where introductions could change a career faster than any audition. Rumors suggest Meghan's early orbit included those circles. Supporters say the label itself is a smear and emphasize there is no verified record proving misconduct. Bower does not present one either. Instead, he nudges viewers toward a broader pattern: networking, leverage, opportunity, and a public image that advanced as access expanded. In this telling, the question is not a single disputed evening, but a skill set: how to move through high-value rooms, how to turn proximity into headlines, and how to keep the spotlight pointed in the right direction long enough to become the story. The next theme is presentation. Bower says the modern brand echoes the most famous blueprint in royal memory, Diana. There are silhouettes that recall iconic dresses, a tilted chin that mirrors a familiar photograph, and apparently candid sidewalk walks that somehow land on the front page at precisely the right moment. Depending on your angle, it looks like respectful homage or deliberate reenactment. His most quoted line is blunt: "You can't be Diana." That stings because Diana's appeal felt unscripted. She moved people without looking like she was trying to move them. When staging shows, sincerity is the first casualty. Once audiences believe the scene was designed to elicit a reaction, they start grading the performance instead of feeling the emotion. Then come the contradictions that power his thesis. Over time, details blur and anecdotes morph. One widely shared moment claimed a search engine was never used. Another account recalled familiarity with the prince well before the first dinner. A recollection in one setting places a conversation here. A later retelling moves it somewhere else. Supporters argue that memory is messy and that quotes are flattened by headlines. Detractors respond that revisions conveniently align with the latest narrative. Bower's point is not that every discrepancy proves deceit, but that a stack of shifting details can become its own story. When people feel they need a chart to track the timeline, trust begins to drain even before the facts are settled. The marriage becomes the next arena. According to Bower's sources, insiders murmur that the relationship sometimes looks more like a pressure-tested partnership than a private refuge. Photos surface at precise moments, captions appear when sentiment turns hostile, and domestic storylines rise just as harsh takes trend. Rumors suggest that motherhood narratives are emphasized to soften the feed whenever headlines turn cold. None of this proves fracture. Famous couples often schedule their lives with strategic care, yet optics can harden into belief. If the audience senses that every tender frame doubles as a counterpunch to criticism, the gesture risks losing its warmth and becomes another move in a never-ending PR chess match. Hollywood's reaction adds weight because it is measured in private rooms, not public quotes. At first, the glow was automatic. Royalty meets red carpet, curiosity guaranteed. Then came whispers that some executives were cautious. Reports claimed the audio partnership stumbled, that meetings cooled, and that nobody wanted a constant wave of think pieces attached to every development. The high-profile Spotify breakup became a shorthand for momentum stalling. That single headline cannot define an entire career, but perception functions like compound interest. A few quiet passes become a trend line, and a trend line becomes a verdict shared in hushed tones over conference tables. Talented, famous, and possibly high maintenance. Great for clicks, risky for budgets. He also revisits headline-heavy flashpoints that split opinion. The New York car chase narrative, disputes over titles, courtroom battles that thrilled supporters and irritated critics, and front-facing moments some called overproduced. His method is to stack them like chapters and invite people to scan the recurring motifs. Urgency, danger, injustice, vindication. Fans argue that relentless scrutiny creates these moments and then weaponizes them. Critics insist that details shift when checked and that every intense episode arrives with a convenient camera angle. Bauer does not need all viewers to agree. He only needs a large middle to feel uneasy, to assume spin by default, and to treat the next dramatic reveal as a press kit rather than a confession. Inside the House of Windsor, reconciliation talk loops like a playlist. The palace runs on hush, apologize in private, never monetize pain, and avoid televised therapy. The California approach is different. Speak your truth, correct the record, and control the narrative before tabloids do it for you. Those philosophies collide on contact. Bauer hints that courtiers are out of patience, while sympathizers in America see defiance as principled. Both sides make sense within their own systems, which is precisely why the stalemate persists. Each new sit-down, photo call, or ceremony becomes another referendum on whose rules apply, and the crowd gets to vote with attention. The PR feedback loop might be the most modern ingredient in this controversy. When a message is buffed to a mirror sheen, audiences spot fingerprints. A photo that looks orchestrated triggers frame-by-frame breakdowns. A caption that sounds lawyered gets parsed like a clause. A documentary beat that clicks into place too neatly invites side-by-side comparisons with older footage. Bauer argues that in a world trained by handheld video and messy authenticity, heavy control can read as concealment. That is not a Meghan problem alone. It is the trap for anyone famous in the algorithm era. The more you polish, the more people assume you are hiding something worth polishing away. The echo of Diana returns because it is the clearest contrast and the riskiest device. Diana's tenderness felt improvised. The public saw vulnerability without a storyboard. If modern storytelling tries to recreate that response through deliberate callbacks, people feel managed rather than moved. Bauer leans on that gap between lived chaos and curated myth, and he asks the audience to decide where to park its empathy. That decision changes everything. It affects whether a sidewalk walk reads as bravery or bait, whether a wardrobe choice looks like tribute or cosplay, and whether the next interview feels like truth-telling or brand maintenance. By now, his larger claim is clear. Credibility is oxygen, and he says the supply is thinning. When specials, interviews, and filings overlap, when details are revised and footnotes get longer, the average viewer stops cataloging facts and starts forming instincts. Instincts are stubborn. This is why reports of cooling ties with platforms or cautious distance from certain A-list rooms land so loudly. They become shorthand for a market verdict. Curiosity is high, trust is lower. Maybe that is unfair, maybe it is earned. Either way, the next chapter now carries a burden of proof that grows heavier with every contested detail and every strategic pose. So what resets the arc if doubt has become the default? Not a louder monologue or a harsher clapback. The antidote is time, quiet, and projects that require no advocacy because the results stand on their own. If the yacht whisper belongs in the bin, starve it until even trolls get bored. If the Diana parallels are unhelpful, stop feeding them with look-alike wardrobes and deja vu photo ops. If contradictions fuel the outrage machine, choose precision over spectacle, and let smaller, verifiable wins accumulate. Bauer understands the media math. He speaks in crisp lines that ricochet through feeds and leave lingering doubt. Whether you see that as honesty or provocation, the effect is the same. Every new appearance will be judged against a louder question: what is real and what is staged? And that leaves the verdict with you, not with a palace aide, a studio executive, or a biographer sharpening his pencil. Do Bauer's claims read as overdue accountability, or as a collage of recycled slights arranged for impact? Do timeline stumbles feel like intentional edits, or like the messy byproduct of living on camera? Does the yacht whisper sound like projection or proof? In the modern era, verdicts arrive as statements. They appear as trend lines. If trust returns, it will be because future chapters are convincing without narration. If it fades, it will be because the audience decided the performance outweighed the truth a scene too many.